So I just bought the Moondrop Chu 3 from Shenzhen Audio Show and I got mixed feelings on it. It's not bad, but it's not the most competitive budget IEM in 2026. Starting with overall sound, the Chu 3 is going for a mid-bass focused all-rounder approach. The main pro of this IEM, and maybe its only pro, is that the slam and impact, the no way in the mid-bass region is very heavy, hard, very satisfying if you love bass. The bass texture itself is actually pretty decent for the price. The no way is good. It's not overly smoothed out when it comes to the attack. It retains some form of texture. Imaging cuts through enough, but not overly detailed and precise because of the sheer amount of bass, plus, the tamer upper mids and treble area. The bass notes linger on a little bit longer than normal with more weight, giving it a thicker characteristic, like slower decay, that some might really like if you like a lot of slam, while others might find it to be a bit muddy. For example, if your library consists of hip hop, jazz, EDM, pop, then these might fit pretty well when it comes to the drum section, male vocals. However, there are some issues. Number one, the vocals just does not sound correct in my opinion, especially when it comes to the female artist. The mid-bass boost is a little bit much. It's like pushed too forward when it comes to the drums. The sub-bass into your face has a closer, more, I don't want to say congested, but smaller feeling stage. There's also a cut from 4 to 6K, which is the clarity and the final extension when it comes to the vocals. So with all that combined, you end up getting double whammy, where the sound becomes more muffled, congested because of the bass boost, but the vocals are also still kind of stuck because of the lack of power, openness and final extension when it comes to the artist. Simply put, there's too much low end and not enough air, which also hurts the layering and makes the Chu 3 feel smaller than it should be. I don't want to say that it's like super muddy and dark, because there is still some treble extension. You still hear the imaging, but it's not the most technical AEM. For example, versus the Chu 2, the 3 is noticeably warmer, bassier, thicker, not as clear and detailed in the mids and highs. In this context, you feel more of it in your head kind of feeling, less open when you A-B them side to side due to the sheer amount of upper mids and treble roll off in general compared to the Chu 2, and also because of the extra boost when it comes to the mid bass. The pros of this is that it is less shouty and fatiguing because of the added low end, but for around the same price, the Chu 3 feels like a downgrade when it comes to the detail, clarity, layering, quote unquote technical performance. Like if you just want a balanced all-rounder sound, the Chu 2 is still the better option, since the 3 really leans into that mid-bass slam and just that bassy all-rounder sound. Number 2, the second nitpick is the treble and just the clarity in general. It needs more air in order for the Chu 3 to not sound congested, to sound more open, correct, less in your head, and cleaner in the overall just approach. The rolled off late treble regions needs a little lift on top of reducing the bass quantity. Basically, Moondrop tried to copy the EW300 red nozzles, kind of tonality, but they failed because there's not enough extension in both the air and the upper mids for the clarity and that sense of space. But also, it's too bassy and a little bit too boomy when it comes to the low end, because again, it is more boosted in the mid bass. So for better timbre, you can either boost the treble and the upper mids more to make things more clear, but that creates kind of a more V-shaped kind of sound, or you can clean up the mid bass region. For example, a comparison would be the WANER 2 bass edition, also a low end, bassy all-rounder kind of IEM, but it has a cleaner and tighter bass response, less bleed, more treble extension, which makes it sound not only more technical, open and resolving, but also still maintains the bass impact and feels a little bit cleaner but still bassy at the same time. I will say though, the texture in the mid bass is better on the Chu 3 and not as boosted when it comes to the treble and upper mids region. So if you're more sensitive in the treble, the upper mids, or you just really want to hear that mid bass, the Chu 3 would still be decent. But overall, as a whole, I would still go WANER 2 bass, because there are people complaining about how the red line is already a bit too bassy depending on the unit you get, plus the much better cable, tip selection and unboxing on top. Another comparison would be the 02s. These are smoother overall, they are a bit cleaner when it comes to the vocals, sounds more tonally correct like the WANER 2 bass, but just less, extended in the treble detail, and also just cleaner and more correct than the Chu 3s. And out of the 3, I think if I was looking for a bassy set, I would still go for the WANER 2 bass, because just first of all, look at the packaging. Like, you're not getting this type of presentation on any other IEM. And this also has slightly better treble extension than the 02s, and for around the same price, and just like better when it comes to the tonal, vocals, treble versus the Chu 3s. However, if you can squeeze $5 to $10 more, the better pick would actually to just buy the KEFINE LORIC, which is the best tuned, quote unquote, mini EW300 clones over the Vivas, the Rumba, the Kunten, and of course the Chu 3, which is basically the worst version of the mini EW300 clones. And the LORICs are in direct upgrade to the WANER 2 bass when it comes to the build and vocal clarity for a bassy all-rounder kind of budget endgame sound. On the other hand, if you're looking for a more balanced, cleaner low end, better mids, more clear, more forward vocals, but you still want like some punchiness when it comes to the low end, you got the TANCHJIM Bunny DSPs and the original KIWIEARS CADENZA, which will all be more detailed, resolving, less congested, more clarity to the vocals, just less sluggish overall when it comes to the attack and decay in the bass. It just has a lot more bass than those. Feels more natural and realistic when it comes to the timbre and the vocals. If you really want a bassy worm set, I would actually just get the QKZ HBBs. They go on sale for like $15. Better treble extension than the Chu 3s, similar bassy all-rounder kind of sound, but just a better extended version, more open, less congested version of the Chu 3s overall. So that's an option as well. So in conclusion, is the Chu 3 a bad IEM? I wouldn't say so, but is it a competitive IEM? I also wouldn't say so, especially given its overall packaging, accessories, when you do compare it to like the Chu 3 Gates cable, and then of course the WANER 2 bass overall package. For those who already own a budget IEM like the 02s, the Chu 2s, OG CADENZA, and you don't find yourself needing more low end, you're good with how it sounds, I would skip these. These are nothing new. They're using the same shell, similar design. They're still gonna have humidity issues because it is still a metal nozzle, bronze metal nozzle here. So yeah, you're not missing out on much. It's not a upgrade. These are maybe even a downgrade to them when it comes to just technical performance. And if I'm being nice, these would be a side grade to, I guess, like the other bassy all-rounders like the 02s, the WANER 2 bass, and stuff like that. So yeah, not a bad IEM, but not amazing either. Like, it's not gonna be in my top 10, budget $20 IEMs. These are for those who like a very bassy, mid-bass centric, still all-rounder kind of sound, like the LORIC, Vivas, Rumba, but just less extended, less, I guess, like resolving and clear as those. I would still personally go for, the Chu 2, the WANER 2 bass, or the 02s, even the OG CADENZA. I would get these on sale for maybe around $15 because it needs to be cheaper than those, since this is a step down technical performance wise in my opinion. And then if you add $5 to $10 more, you got the LORIC, which is basically a better version of the Chu 3s. So yeah, this does definitely have tough competition. I would not buy this retail. Anyhow, I hope you guys found this review to be helpful. I got more stuff coming. Got the Moondrop Silicon, the Nightfall, some other stuff. Of course, the Seraphim is probably coming out soon. soon, right? But yeah, stay tuned for that, and I will see everyone in the next video. Thanks for watching.
Shout out to Mr. Dom Q, Zenu, B. Urac, Walker Standard, User, Tsukasa, Guava Juice Bane, Polly J, Mr. Gorillas, CT Jack, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, 777ZK, Obi, PM the Wizard, Treble Well Extended, Matt Herc, TR8107, Shrimpback Lay, Addy, Michael, Trackstar, Raphael, Ori, Juniper, Ryan, Effinadim, Chimika, Raj, Gilbog, Ocean, BC Knight, AK131, MN Gelato, Unbalanced Armature, Vitor Ken, Hakase, JRX, John Simmons, Sir Eisen, JPLA, Blue Runner, Furto, The Audio Freak, Wat Joe, Spinner, Sam Z, Raj, Yaboy, Grizzly, Leanne, It's Mark, Hedgehogs, Zane, NerbyMS, Urian, Rim1, GGG, Kevin, Slots, Earl Grey, Leo, Task, Evan, Herman, Omar, Gorilla, Fidelex, Harrison, Galax, Al Richard, and Alessandro. Thank you guys so much for the support.